Welcome to Muskegon Rising, a community service project of the Muskegon Rotary Club. Our purpose is to create lasting positive change. We've been doing that here since 1916. So, let's get started.
Hello, I'm Nancy Crandall, longtime member of Muskegon Rotary Club, and I'm here today as host of this session of Muskegon Rising. And my guest today is the Honorable Gary Nealon, Mayor of the City of Norton Shores. Hi, Gary.
Good morning. Thank you.
Tell us how long you've been mayor. What do you actually do as mayor?
Yeah, right. So I've been mayor for, 14 years now. 2009, I was first elected. It's a 4-year term. So if I decide again, we're in an off year, so it'd be 2025. There's no term limits. People ask that about Norton Shores, as you know, as a former mayor. So, as mayor, I run the meetings, that's first and foremost. We have city council meetings 3 times a month. And, so I chair those meetings. But we have a unique city charter where, as mayor, you're designated as the CEO of the city. And then the city administrator, what we call our city manager, but it's called city administrator, it answers directly to the mayor. The mayor appoints the city administrator and the department heads. And so it's different. So we've got a kind of a hybrid. It's unique as we talk around the state of Michigan with other mayors and councils and that sort of thing. So I'm at, one of the things why I ran for mayor was I thought it was important to be at City Hall to sort of like a college professor, have open office hours. So I'm there 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 2 hours, not a lot. Wednesday mornings taken up by staff meetings. I sit in with all the department heads and we talk about, what happened at the council meeting the night before, what are the projects going on in the city, keep myself abreast of all that because, as you get stopped in the milk aisle at Meijer and somebody wants to know what's going on here.
That's right.
So I like to know what's going on. And so, yeah, I'm there and try to give direction. I jokingly say that I've got the wonderful job of I get to go to City Hall, stir the pot, and then leave. So
That's a great way to put it. Speaking of that city charter, it was written adopted in 1964, and it hasn't changed.
No.
We did have a revision committee that met and made some great recommendations at one time. Has there been any effort recently or any talk of revising the city charter?
Nothing formal, but there's been talk. I mean, because it was really created, when we were morphing from a township to a city. And so how it set up the millage and, not to be real boring, but, a certain amount is set aside for general fund. We have a capital improvement budget as well. And that's money that's collected that, we have to look for projects to spend that money on because you can't use it for general fund, that sort of thing. So there's been a talk over the years of allowing and more recently, as budgets get tighter, but is giving the council the ability to, use that money more as it sees fit and, probably is a better way of spending money than what we currently do, perhaps. And then, it's just antiquated. It's a lot of male pronouns in there,
Yes.
That stuff needs to be changed. And, but, when that revision went through a number of years ago, people get nervous when they start talking about changing how tax dollars are spent. And
exactly.
And I understand that completely. But I think there's definitely some things that need to be done. And then I, not for myself personally, but, one of the things that we talk about is, you don't make a lot of money as a council member or mayor of Norton Shores. $50 if you're a council member and $200 a month if you're the mayor. But one thing that we talked about is that a barrier to some people wanting to, because in mid-60s, that was probably equivalent to, say, $10,000 a year, something like that. So, but that has to be a charter revision as well. Or I take that back. You can vote on it before, but it doesn't take effect until after the next election, which makes sense.
Right. Yes, it does. Just briefly explain the mayor-manager form of government. In Norton Shores, the mayor is directly elected.
Yep. So directly elected, nonpartisan, thankfully.
Yes.
And, very much thankfully for that. Directly elected. We have 8 members of the city council, 4 are what are considered at large. They cover the whole city. And then the city actually has 2 wards, kind of divided north and south, I guess you'd say. And those 4 council members, 2 in each ward. But we don't all run at the same time, which is great design when they did the charter, because now you've got some continuity of people staying on. But so like next year, if I decide to run again, it will be me and the 4 at-large council members would have to run again. And it's 4-year terms for everybody. And then, and then the, council is, legislative in nature, I guess you would say, and, decides policy, that sort of thing. Council doesn't, except for myself, doesn't have any direct administrative roles, and so.
I think it's important for people to remember that.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, we get people, we have great council, always have had great council members, but every once in a while, if you get somebody who's elected, you have to, because it is a little different. So you have to explain to them when we do an orientation for new electeds, say, this is how it works, this is what we do. You as much as you want to go down to the Public Works Department and tell them to plow this road, you can't do that. Right.
Yeah, they have to be reminded now and then. What do you see currently as challenges? What are opportunities right now?
The challenge is always funding. There's just, it's like your own budget at home, right? The city gets, a certain dollar amount from taxes and fees that we charge and all that sort of stuff. And there's always more demand than we have, as far as paving roads, increasing parks, improving parks. Whatever it is, there's always a demand for more. So funding is always something. We're sort of in a good point right now because property values have gone up so much. And so property values, Norton Shores has a reputation. People think that we have a really high tax rate, but we don't. We have a low millage rate comparatively, 10 total mills, 10.95 mills. But we are fortunate that we have the highest property values in the county, about $1.5 billion, compared to our, neighbors. Just for comparison, the next, I think, is City of Muskegon, about $800 million. So we generate a lot of revenue from very, relatively small millage, but it's always funding. And then it is housing stock. Housing is just, housing, right? The whole community talks about it, but, Norton Shores needs housing at every level. We need workforce housing. We need, there's a demand for high-end housing, but, there's, apartments. We need it all. And so it's, as you want to grow, as you want people to come here. And then that's always the battle, right? From when I grew up here to, now, I remember where the mall was all blueberry fields and that sort of stuff. Right. So I don't want development everywhere. I don't want every stand of woods ever, that we have in this community cut down. Part of our whole thing is this, it's in our nature. And part of it is the beauty of it, right? Yeah. So,
speaking of that, I was going to ask you about it's in our nature. Norton Shores has a lot of parks.
Yeah. I know.
All over the
lots
city.
Of
small parks, big parks.
Yeah, and we try to maintain those, and we try to, Norton Shores is big, 24 square miles roughly. So for those who don't know, it's from the Ottawa County line up to Sherman Boulevard, basically, and then east. We go, pretty far east Broadway area, that sort of stuff. So we have parks all over, small neighborhood parks, for the kids, swing sets and that sort of stuff. And then, of course, Lake Harbor Park's kind of the crown jewel with, all the frontage on Lake Michigan. Dune Harbor Park's been great. That's not a city park. We benefit because it's in the city, but that's owned by the county.
Yeah. That was a wonderful
Hoffmaster,
addition.
Same thing.
Sure.
It's not ours, but Norton Shores has about 6 miles of Lake Michigan frontage, and, about half of that is parkland.
And tell us about Black Lake Park, the newest one. Yeah,
so Black Lake Park. Black Lake is, southern part of the county, or southern part of the county too, southern part of the city. Small inland lake, real shallow, no motorized boats, few houses on it, but not many. And that's been that's a good example of intergovernmental cooperation because we worked with Spring Lake Township. And I think Norton Shores really has about a third of that park in our community. The rest is Spring Lake Township. And but kayak launch has been a huge thing there. These zero entry kayak launch. You sit on it, walk in, get in, don't get wet.
Good thing.
And then and there's some walking trails out there, and it's been really popular. It's really popular with graduation photos. I don't know why, but that's
interesting.
You see a lot of photography going on out there.
Speaking of the boundaries of the city of Norton Shores, the Postal Department, in their wisdom, declared that the Norton Shores Industrial Park, which is fully within Norton Shores, has a Spring Lake address.
Yeah.
And we've fought that battle for years.
Oh, yeah.
Any progress or a sign of change?
Nothing recently. I mean, when I was first mayor, and one of our, former Rotarians, great council member, Gary Ostrom, really was leading that charge for the city,
Right.
and got us in contact with Carl Levin's office, and when he was our senator, and we met. And so what they allowed us to do was go through and change every address. So now if you get mail, because it's 456, I
Right.
think, and if you mail something to Norton Shores with that zip code, it will still come. And so if you look like
small victories.
it is great. Well, there's a zip code that they've been saving that we asked for or asked about, and it's 49447. It's a zip code that is not in use, and they're saving that. The Postal Service told us that was for future growth, and we don't know where that future growth is. But it was just their programming and the stuff that they just told us it was a budget thing. They couldn't afford what it would take to.
I think I've heard that story before. We went through that several years ago. One of the criticisms that I've heard about Norton Shores is that there's no downtown.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it was, we're, a suburb. I mean, traditional suburb, I guess, is how it was laid out. I don't know if it was ever really laid out. It just naturally became that way. Norton and Henry kind of, has sort of always been the, Roosevelt Park's right there too, but that's always been sort of the area, Henry Street, that sort of stuff. But yeah, no traditional downtown. We did a study and kind of a place plan, cityscape, sort of like turning Seminole between Henry Street and Seaway Drive into sort of Main Street, Norton Shores, if you will, because the library's there, and there's quite a few doctors and dentist offices and that sort of thing. And then Harvey Street, is really taken over as well as far as commercial corridors. So yeah, not a traditional downtown.
Richard Charles Ford used to tell me that we are a sub without an herb, was his definition. You spoke just a minute ago about intergovernmental cooperation. Where are you seeing that? Is there still an effort toward more cooperation between all the governments?
I think there's a lot of that goes on in the community that probably isn't noticed because it's not flashy. A lot of currently like our 911 system is kind of known for that. The wastewater system, all the users with that. Fire departments, do a lot of automatic aid, mutual aid. Automatic aid means, there's agreements in place that if something happens in a neighboring community that reaches a certain criteria, we automatically have to go there and respond. Mutual aid is more of a, hey, if you've got the ability, can you come help us if there's a situation? Do a lot of that, and that crosses county lines. I mean, Spring Lake Township has a big event going on. We'll backfill and fill in their fire stations for them if we've got the ability. Fruitport Township, Muskegon Heights, we're going a lot in helping them with automatic aid. And they do the same thing. They have an automatic aid agreement with us that they respond to any structure fires north of Mona Lake. And then, police don't have those sort of formal agreements, but police are always, working together because as there are no border crossings when you've got, these communities. And so crime crosses borders. And so they're working on different things. But yeah, I mean, I think, there's, as part of the budget process and you start to talk about limited funds, not only for Norton Shores or for all of our neighboring communities, the discussion has been around there for years, but do we start looking at bigger ways to do intergovernmental cooperation? Do we do a metro fire authority? Do we a metro police department? Do we, that sort of thing?
Yeah, that was addressed years ago with economic development, particularly.
Yeah.
What's happening in that arena right now?
As far as cooperation goes, so you've got, what was Muskegon area first is now Greater Muskegon Economic Development, GMED. And so it changed a little bit in a good way. It used to always be, and I remember this because I worked at Muskegon area first many, many, many years ago, but you used to have all the, most every, head of every community, mayor, city manager, village manager, or something, would sit around the table, and politics got involved all the time, right? And so they've changed the content of how that board works, and now there's one local representative that represents all the local governments. But yeah, that's still their Marla that runs that does a great job. They see developing the county as what their role is, and I think we understand that. I mean, there's statistics everywhere how many Norton Shores residents travel to wherever to work, and how many people come from surrounding communities to work in all the shops in Norton Shores. So,
is there still space in the industrial park or even elsewhere for industrial development?
Getting pretty limited. It really is getting limited. We're, south, part of what government does, is planning. And so it was planned many years ago that the southern part of the city was really kind of where the industrial growth would be. And we've had quite a bit of success over the last number of years of attracting some businesses, attracting a lot from Ottawa County. They want to be north of the bridge, and they want to be close to the airport, close to the highway, and that sort of stuff. And a lot of their employees were driving down from Muskegon. So these businesses would move here. But we the city, we've been trying to use some of our, funds that we have and different things to actually buy some land and square off some odd-shaped lots and different things to save those for future development.
Anything else people should know about the city of Norton Shores or the job of a mayor?
It's I'll say the job of the mayor is 95% fun. The one thing that I never knew that I'd get into is HR issues that I get into, that sort of stuff. So that's all built in the charter, not to bore people, but if you're non-union, you end up on my desk. And so that's been interesting over the years. I just think that, just like our tagline, it's in our nature. Norton Shores is proud of, being a place of natural beauty. We support support, I guess you would say, but we also promote and value all of our parks that we have, and Mona Lake being kind of the jewel in the middle of it. So, come and check it out. There's a lot of hidden spots that, people that live in, the greater Muskegon area don't know about, haven't taken the time to look for. And then I just think that, we're a great place to live and raise a family. And I think it's, and I say we're in the best position because all of the great things that are in downtown Muskegon, you can be there in 10 minutes. And if you want to go to Grand Haven, you're there in 10 minutes, that sort of thing. So we've got, we're smack dab in the middle of.
One thing that used to surprise people, I don't know if it still does, is that Norton Shores actually is the third largest city on the west coast of Michigan.
Yeah.
After Muskegon and Holland.
Yeah.
And I think folks think it's just this little suburb stuck out here.
Right, exactly.
Don't realize what all is here.
Yeah, and we continue to grow. I mean, we're the only city that grew in Muskegon County from the census from 2020, and not by huge. I mean, Muskegon County as a whole, I think, grew 1,800 people, something like that. But yeah, it's very quiet. And when you start to tell people, because we're this sort of dichotomy, we've got 25,000 people, but when I tell people that I'm a mayor of a city of 25,000 people, yet we still have 10 miles of gravel roads, they're like, huh? How can you have gravel roads? And I said, and we still allow horses, and Black Lake Park that we talked about earlier, we allow horses in that park, which is very rare in Michigan, that we passed an ordinance allowing people to have their horses in that park. And so you've got that sort of rural, But yeah, it's, Grand Haven, I said that just last week to somebody. I said, the Grand Haven's 11,000 people, double,
Right.
and they don't realize that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it is a wonderful place to live, work, and play,
Yes,
as we used to say.
absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you very much for spending some time with us this morning.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you.